Irene from This Mindful Muse here, and I just wanted to check in to see if anyone else can relate to something that I have been dealing with, or if you have been experiencing something similar. Have you ever felt like an experience has resulted in a reaction from a past you? What I mean by this is, I have recently been experiencing situations that have felt eerily like triggers. Not as deeply triggering as perhaps these situations would have been in the past, but there feels like a thread, like a thin thread, a link to a past me. And in the moment, when I react in a way that I no longer come from, that perspective, that mindset, that reactionary place, right? We don't know her. She doesn't even go here. Like, oh, I have worked so hard to release myself of these patterns and these behaviors. And so it's been bizarre that situations have come up and then it has been a sense of triggering of some kind, resulting in a reaction. And then I think, we don't do that anymore. And it's happened a few times recently. And at first it was a little jarring. It was deeply upsetting. It would result in a release of feelings. It would result in feelings of embarrassment, shame, guilt. And I have noticed that when shame and guilt come up for me, it is an invitation. It's an opportunity to look at the deeper patterning here. Why is this coming up as guilt and shame? Right? And when I trace it to the basement and see what is this coming from and why is this coming up, I have been getting the sense that the universe, whatever you want to call it, creator, God, happenstance, or kismet, synchronicities, these moments have felt intentionally brought up for me so that I can feel what it was like to be a past me. And to know that she is so foreign to me. I used to live in that house, right? I lived in that house and I've got memories there, and some of them are good and some of them are bad, but I moved out. I don't live there anymore, right? I'm happy to live in a different place. But when I'm reflecting on these situations, it feels as if I am meant to walk through that house again, to remember where things used to be, and to see how hard I've worked and how far I've come to live in a different house. And that the universe doesn't just want to show it to me, it wants me to experience it again. So if you have situations coming up that are feeling triggering and that you are reacting in a very tender way that feels like a past you, one, your feelings are valid. It's okay to get upset. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel our feelings, right? And if you've done a lot of work to react differently in a more mature way to situations, or mature, however you want to pronounce it, in a more mature way to situations, and you catch yourself reacting in a way that you no longer respond, I want you to notice, an invitation to notice if this feels safe for you, that perhaps this is an opportunity for you to, one, ensure that you still have the coping mechanisms in place so that you can heal more quickly. When I was triggered by these things, I felt the feelings very, very deeply. And for me, I think that comes from having been in an abusive relationship for over 10 years where I was not allowed to feel feelings or cry. So for me, the release of crying, it is bringing up a lot so that it can be felt, so then it can be released from my system. So I'm not carrying this with me anymore, right? So an invitation, if you are sensing that you have things coming up, bubbling to the surface, and it feels like, we have been there before, but we don't live there anymore. We actively packed our stuff and moved the heck out because we didn't like living there. And we had come to a place where we were realizing how toxic or unhealthy this place was to live. And so being there can be scary. It can be uncomfortable. And if we can frame it as an opportunity to engage with gratitude, to celebrate the work that you have done. You are the person that your ancestors have been waiting for. You have been doing the work for yourself, and it has been impacting people around you, seeing you heal. And if things are coming up and it is scary because they remind you of a past you, an invitation to feel the feelings, to know that we don't live there anymore, and to see how far you've come. And then to check in to see, do I have coping mechanisms, a support system, strategies in place for the new version of me to maintain this beautiful new home that I live in, with gratitude for the home that I lived in before, because I like to think that I would appreciate my new home no matter what. But the fact that it is so much more improved than a home that I lived in before, that I can see the contrasts. And this fills me with so much deep gratitude for what I have worked to build or attain and maintain. This is simply an invitation for you to, with gratitude, recognize the amount of work that you've done. It's so easy to go into the shame spiral, the guilt, I'm an awful person, why am I here, why are these things happening? And maybe they're happening for different people for different reasons, but I have sensed in my personal friend group with colleagues and just kind of energetically, this feeling that we are returning to a place we've been before. And I think there's some big reasons for that. So know that as scary things are happening in the world outside of our immediate control, as these things are happening and you're being reminded that you have been somewhere before and that you've moved through it and you've done so much work to be where you are now, you are better prepared to deal with things that are coming that might be even more difficult than where you were before. And when you lived in a valley and that felt really safe and comfortable, one day you decided you wanted to know what it looked like from the top of a mountain, and you started that journey. And when you got to the top of this mountain, it's worth celebrating that you don't live in that valley anymore, because the view from the mountain is so beautiful. It was hard work to get there. It was really hard work to get there. But it's worth celebrating that journey. There's a bigger mountain to climb, a much bigger mountain. But you've proven to yourself that you have all the skills that you need to have gone from the valley to this mountain. And from this viewpoint, you're seeing so much more than you saw before. You're able to look back with gratitude for all of the difficult circumstances that arose for you. Not just happened to you. Yes, they happened to you, but also arose for you so that you could climb and develop these skills. And now we're in this place and we're being reminded of what it felt like to be in the valley, because we have a bigger mountain to climb. It's okay to be scared. It's okay to feel triggered. It's okay to have emotions come back up to the surface. If you feel like you're regressing, care for yourself. This is an opportunity for you to check in. Do you have support systems in place? Do you have coping mechanisms in place? Are you self-caring? And that's an easy phrase to throw around, but self-caring should look different for every person. Self-caring does not have to be face masks and taking a hot bath. I live for a hot bath. Anyone who knows me knows I live in the bathtub. But self-care isn't just that. It's the hard stuff too. It's the uncomfortable things, right? You have a bigger mountain to climb now. So before we climb that mountain, we're going to pause. We're going to take stock of what supplies we have with us. We're going to restock. It's important to remember the journey we went on, where we were before, and honor and celebrate the life that was in the valley. There are beautiful memories from the valley. But we were tolerating uncomfortable, unhealthy ways of living. So we started a journey because we were ready for change. And when we got to that mountain peak, you want to kick your feet up and take a load off? I did all this work. Don't I get to just enjoy the view? Daggone, you know? And maybe in some ways you have. So then it can be very jarring and upsetting to then look up and see there's a whole mountain, a really big mountain. It's more than double the size of this mountain that I just climbed. Dang it. But I bet the view from the top of that mountain is even more beautiful. And the skills that you will gain along the way, on top of the skills you've already gained, are for you, not just happening to you, are being brought up for you. So if anyone else is experiencing this, I don't know if that perspective is helpful. I hope that it is. I hope that you are caring for yourself. I hope that you are resting. I hope that you are feeding yourself nutritious food, delicious food, and your soul, feeding your soul with activities that are uplifting. It is a time to review the journey from before, to take stock of what you have, and potentially to be reminded of the universe, how nice it was to let all of that life in the valley go. There were beautiful things, but it was unhealthy. And the journey up was a journey. It was a lot. It is worth your time reflecting on as we look up at this mountain, maybe feeling afraid, maybe feeling the need to prepare, but remembering how far you've come, that you are not that person anymore, because you are going to need to shed more things that do not serve you in order to climb to the top of the next mountain, in order to not kaput halfway up. We're being reminded of how much work we've done, how good it feels to not be living in that place. We're experiencing what it was to be in that place, to know, I'm so glad that I worked so hard to release that. Celebrate that. And I mean that. Reflect on it. Hold space for it. Celebrate it. You're being reminded of the wins that come from releasing. I'm going to butcher this quote, but there's some quote about this time of year and how the trees are reminding us of how beautiful it is to let things go this time of year. As they release their leaves, they no longer serve them, right? It requires energy to maintain a green leaf. And they are in a cycle and a season of release and of caring for themselves, right? Until we know we're going to get to the spring. And we know that that spring cycle is going to come, but the winter can be bleak. So we can look back on where we've been. If you are receiving these reminders, hold space that your feelings are valid. It's hard to feel feelings, y'all. It's really hard. It's not easy. And if you work so hard to get out of that place, it can be so scary to feel like you're back there. You're not back there. You have progressed. These triggers or reminders are an invitation to take stock of what you're still carrying, because you have a long journey ahead. You got some stuff that you could unpack that are not going to serve you on your journey. They are weighting down your pack. They're going to slow you down. So before we start that next journey, carrying all that stuff and weighting ourselves down, we need to take stock, really feel empowered to release, because it's hard. It's hard to release. So look back, celebrate, take stock of what has been helpful. Do I have enough of this? Do I need a little more of that? Pause, refill the things that are helpful, and get rid of the stuff that you don't need. That's easy to say, it's hard to do. You have a journey ahead of you. You don't need to carry this stuff that is weighting you down with you. You do need to be prepared. You do need supplies. You do need to be well rested, and you need to care for yourself. So this is an invitation to rest, to care, to celebrate your success, to follow any guilt or shame that comes up and to trace it to the basement. What is underneath that? What is that really coming up from? What is the source of those feelings? Because that is extra weight. That's dead weight. You don't need that. Whatever is under that, right? Trim it off, cut it off. You don't need it. Take it out of the pack. I hope that you have a beautiful journey. I hope that you celebrate yourself today. I hope that you self-care in a meaningful way, and that can and should look different for different people. And if you can relate to this, please leave a comment so that I know I'm not alone in this. Please share this if you feel like there's someone else who's going through this as well. Thank you so much for sharing time, space, and energy with me today. And I will see you around. Much love and light. Bye.